28. So on this one, I know that this quadratic is going to be opening down something. Oh, you can't even see that. Sorry. I know the quadratic is going to be opening downward, so it's going to look something like this. So on this one, my domain is actually going to be a small window of numbers, right? Unless, of course, this quadratic is actually always below the x-axis, which if that was the case, then the domain would be like no real numbers. It'd be no solutions. All right, so I'll graph it on the calculator. Of course, you don't need a calculator to graph this. Negative x squared plus 4x plus 12. Okay, there's your graph. That was actually really close. Wow. All right, so we just need to know what these two values are right there and there. Looks like it's -2 if I hit trace and do -2. Yeah, that's one of my values is -2. So it's going to be from -2 until I get to this value. You could count the tick marks, but the command on the calculator is the 0 command. I'm going to go to the calc menu. All right, left bound. I got to get my little blinking dot to the left side of it. And it's going up and over. That's what it's doing. All right, there it is. Left of it, and then to the right of it. Press enter again for the guess. Yeah, it was 6. So from -2 to 6 is going to be the domain of this function, right? Because if you pick a number like 7 and you actually go through and plug that in for x, it's going to give you a negative value there. If you pick a number like -3, same thing's going to happen. It's going to be negative, and you cannot do the square root of a negative. All right, like for instance, if you pick a number that is between -2 and 6, like 0, all right, you see that it's going to give you a 12, and you can do that. All right, you can take the square root of 12. So -2 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 6. That would be your domain. What else could I talk about here? Yeah, the graph, if you wanted to just figure out the graph of this by hand, take this -x squared plus 4x plus 12, and you can find the zeros by hand. You can find the intercepts by hand. You just set it equal to 0. To solve this, I'm going to divide by negative. So I get x squared minus 4x minus 12. And this thing is factorable. Uh, 2 times 6 will give you 12. And if you subtract them, you get 4. I need the 6 to be negative and the 2 to be positive. All right. So if x minus 6 is one of my factors, then 6 was my intercept. That's what we saw in the graph earlier. And if x plus 2 is a factor, -2 is my other intercept. And then I know from the beginning that this thing is opening downward. So I knew it had to be opening like this. Okay. And that's why the domain is from -2 to 6. Let's go ahead and do that for number 29. Okay. Let's see what happens on this one. Boy, I sure hope this one's factorable. Yeah, it is. It is factorable. Jeez. All right, I'm going to take this. Of course, you could graph it in your calculator. I'm just going to set it equal to 0 in order to find the x-intercepts. So when I go to factor this thing, it could be like a 6x and a 1x, or it could be a 3x and a 2x. I believe that it's going to be a 3x and a 2x. And then these two numbers have to multiply to give me 8. I think it's going to be a 4 and a 2. Nope, it can't be a 4 and a 2. Darn it. Because I can't put the 4 or the 2 right here with the 2. So maybe it's a 1 and an 8. 1 and an 8. Yep, this is the one that works. This will give me a 3x. This will give me a 16x. And that's how I'm getting my 19x in the middle. Man, this is kind of tricky to graph by hand. It'll be a lot more straightforward with a calculator, I bet. Okay, if 2x plus 1 is a factor, then negative 1/2 is going to be one of my intercepts. If 3x plus 8 is a factor, then negative 8/3 would be the corresponding intercept, which is going to be to the left of this one. All right, negative 8/3 is like 2.66, I think. All right, and this function is going to be opening upwards because this is positive. So it's going to go something like this. There we go. All right, the domain for this is going to have 2 halves. It's going to be x has to be bigger than negative 1/2. X has to be greater than or equal to negative 1/2. Or it could be before negative 8/3. X could be less than or equal to negative 8/3. Either one of those will suffice for your domain there. Let's check this out real quick. 6x squared plus 19x plus 8. Yeah, I guess we could have got it like this too. Negative 0.5, that's one of them. And then negative 8/3. Yeah, this right here represents a 0. The little E symbol, that just means like times 10 to the negative 12th, which is super small. Okay. All right, that's the domain.